This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Hello and welcome. Hopefully the audio is working. Yeah. All right. Well, this is just however long it takes to go over this document is how long this is going to take. But it was pretty interesting. Claudia Dubauer, she sent me a Twitter link last night after the show, or during the show, but I didn't see it. And then it led to the actual PDF file of the, a motion for a new trial for Cristhian Bahena Rivera. And it's actually, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty crazy. Although it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Other than, it's just interesting, okay? So we're going to go over this right now. All right. So here we go. I'm just going to read the part that... I'm not a legal scholar or anything like that, the whole legalese, but this is pretty plainly written. On May 28th, 2021, the jury in the above entitled cause returned a guilty verdict. So we all followed that trial. And he was found guilty of murder in the first degree. And then Iowa Rule of Criminal Procedure 2.24 provides a number of grounds upon which a court may grant a new trial. They will be discussed below and independently. Defendant has discovered important and material evidence in the defendant's favor since the verdict, which the defendant could not with reasonable diligence have discovered and produced at the trial. Defendant incorporates by preference paragraph 1 and 2 as fully blah blah blah. The defendant rested his case in chief at approximately 1:30 to 2 o'clock p.m. on May 26, 2021. So the defense rested, right? Shortly after resting his case in chief, defendant's counsel was approached by the prosecution. So it wasn't some random person. They were approached right after the defense rested. They were approached by the prosecution with information that they themselves had just been provided. The information provided by the prosecution immediately following the defendant resting his case. We saw this when he rested his case. We just didn't know there was stuff going on behind the scenes. Defendant resting his case in chief was that the Division of Criminal Investigation had just received contact from an individual with the Iowa Department of Corrections. The individual with the Department of Corrections had received information from an inmate that morning that the inmate had spoken at some point in time with another individual while both the inmate and other individual was incarcerated in a local county jail. It was reported that this Department of Correction inmate was coming forward. This is a third party at this time because he had heard the testimony of Cristhian Bahena Rivera on television, and it was at that point he realized that the information given him by this other individual was likely true. At that time, the state, through Assistant Attorney General Scott Brown, offered to track down this information with more specificity. At that point, the defendant had rested his case in chief, and the information, which was getting relayed third or fourth hand, did not seem all that consistent with the evidence put forth at trial. See, I still think it doesn't fit, but anyways. Mr. Brown provided the undersigned with a more detailed written report of the interview of the inmate at the Department of Correction post-verdict, which sheds more light on the statement given by the inmate. Following the verdict, the defense was given 2 reports. One report concerned the inmate described herein. The second report was unknown to the defense and concerned an independent third-party witness. Information provided by IDOC inmate as newly discovered evidence as grounds for a new trial. And by the way, if you guys appreciate the channel and support the channel, if you could please support the channel. And again, as I always tell you, we donate a ton of money at the end of the month, as you've seen all the time. All right. Defendant repleads. So the defendant now is repleading and restates paragraph 1 through 10 as fully set forth herein. Following the verdict, Assistant Attorney General Scott Brown, as he indicated, he would promptly deliver via. I think it meant that he. I think it means they meant to just put deliver via email the information concerning this statement. For purposes of this motion, the identity of this individual in the Iowa Department of Correction custody is not being divulged, but the court can be assured that this individual is known to both parties and at hearing will be offering testimony. Let's see. For purposes of this motion, the identity of the individual in the Iowa Department of Correction custody is not being divulged, but the court can be assured that this individual is known to both parties at the hearing. The individual, who will be described as inmate, as described above, forward on May 26, 2020, when the inmate had first contacted the chaplain at the institution where he was housed. The chaplain at the institution then contacted the associate warden of security at the institution to arrange an interview of the inmate. The associate warden and another officer interviewed the inmate at approximately 1:15 p.m. on May 26, 2021. The interview took approximately 20 minutes. The inmate told the associate warden that while previously in a jail in or near Poweshiek County, he was told by another inmate information about the Mollie Tibbetts murder. This second inmate, who for this motion will not be identified personally but will be called inmate 2. Alright, so you've got inmate 2 is the one that told inmate 1. Thank you, Mag. So inmate 2 is the one that actually had direct knowledge. It was reported that while in custody jail, inmate 2 asked inmate if he knew about the Mollie Tibbetts case. The inmate denied knowledge of the case. So this is the inmate's the one that came forward. Inmate 2 is the one that is spilling some beans here. Inmate denied knowledge of the case. Inmate 2 then, I think it's supposed to be went on to detail that he and another individual, whom he identifies by name, were staying in a trap house. Okay, so inmate 2 then went on to detail that he and another individual, whom he identifies by name, were staying in a trap house owned by approximately 50-year-old male involved in the sex trafficking trade. Inmate 2 discussed his relationship with the approximately 50-year-old male and then stated on one occasion he went to a second trap house owned by the male, so there was 2 different trap houses. Inmate 2 then advised the inmate, so inmate 2 again is the one that has the direct knowledge, telling the inmate that at the second trap house, he and the second individual saw Mollie Tibbetts bound and gagged. And then inmate 2 then admitted to the inmate that he and the second individual carried out a plan by this 50-year-old male to kill Mollie Tibbetts. He indicated that the 50-year-old male devised a plan for them to stab Mollie Tibbetts and dump her body near a Hispanic male in order to make it appear that the Hispanic male committed the crime. Inmate 2 then said they did in fact kill Mollie Tibbetts and carry out the plan in such a way that the Hispanic man would be incriminated. Inmate initially thought that inmate 2 was bluster and exaggerating. It was not until he saw the news and heard of the testimony of Cristhian Bahena Rivera. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The reason it doesn't make any sense to me is given the timeline when you have him driving his car over there and Mollie Tibbetts' Fitbit was moving on that road. She was even seen on the road, and then it started going really quick down. It doesn't match his ninja story, okay, whatsoever. But it's pretty bizarre that, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to hear what's going on with these witnesses. Inmate was interviewed by investigators for the defense to provide more details in his statement. Inmate provided the following details. Inmate believed that Mollie Tibbetts was going to be sex trafficked, but the publicity got too big, too quick, and something went wrong. The approximately 50-year-old male was the sex trafficker. Inmate 2 said that federal authorities were next door to the trap house at one point and getting too close to them. You know, I guess they didn't catch Rivera for a while, so there's this time frame where do we really know when she was put into the corn, right? That the second individual with inmate 2 did not speak English very well. Okay, inmate 2 said that federal authorities were next door to the trap house at one point and getting too close to them. That the second individual with inmate 2 did not speak English very well, and that they knew someone local to pin it on. That inmate gave a small amount of money to help inmate 2 post a bail, as inmate 2 was afraid to go back home as he was facing an indictment. That inmate again thought inmate 2 was exaggerating initially until I watched the end of the trial and heard Cristhian Bahena Rivera's testimony, which closely matched inmate 2's story. Defendant repleads and restates paragraph 1 through 22 as if stated verbatim herein. As state above, a second report was provided to the defense on May 29, 2021, following the verdict. This report came as a surprise to the defense, as at the time of the initial disclosure about new evidence by the state, all that was disclosed was the information regarding the inmate. This second report came from Poweshiek County Sheriff's Office and was a report made a second and separate source of information from the individual described as inmate. That's pretty crazy. I mean, now you've got a second source. The report provided indicates that on May 26, 2021, at approximately 3:10 p.m., an individual called the Poweshiek County Sheriff's Office to indicate that he or she had information on the Mollie Tibbetts case. At that time, a deputy sheriff with Poweshiek County contacted the Mahaska County Sheriff, who evidently had spoken with the reporting party. The Mahaska County Sheriff dismissed the information as not being credible, as it appeared the reporting party may be under the influence of some intoxicant. Evidently, however, the individual did give information regarding Mollie Tibbetts' death to that department. The Poweshiek County deputy asked the Mahaska County, I can't say that quick, county sheriff if he could make contact with the reporting party and see if she could come to the Poweshiek County Sheriff's Office to speak with them. Hey, thank you, Paul Ayers. The Mahaska County Sheriff arranged for it. On May 26, 2021, at approximately 5:20 p.m., the individual appeared at the Poweshiek County Sheriff's Office to be interviewed. This interview occurred within 4 hours of the information given by inmate above. It's almost like this coordinated effort, right? The reporting party herein and inmate are unknown to each other. So you have two independent sources here. The reporting party herein and inmate are unknown to each other. The reporting party was described by Poweshiek County deputy as very emotional and that he or she was likely under the influence. Thank you, Brian Joe. And Jacqueline Keeley, hey, you became a freak. All right. Now you can use the emojis. The reporting party indicated that in the above previous months, she had been in contact with law enforcement with 4 other individuals in an automobile who ultimately ended up arrested and taken to jail. During the time leading up to the arrest, one of the individuals in the automobile pulled a pistol on him or her and held it to her head and exclaimed, "That Mexican shouldn't be in jail for killing Mollie Tibbetts because I raped her and killed her." The reporting party knew the individual who held a gun to his head and made this exclamation. The individual who held the gun to his or her head and made the exclamation is the same individual identified to inmate as the individual who admitted. Oh, man. Oh, shit. I mean, that is pretty crazy, right? Like, that lady doesn't even know that person, but it turns out that the individual that said that to her was the guy that was in jail, the inmate number 2, okay? The guy that had the information. That's pretty wild, though, you know. The district court is vested with unusually broad discretion when ruling on a motion for a new trial. Iowa Rule of Criminal Procedure authorizes the court to grant a new trial when the defendant has discovered important and material evidence in the defendant's favor since the verdict, which the defendant could not, with reasonable diligence, have discovered and produced. I think that's a stupid thing to have in the law. You know, who's to determine if something is reasonable diligence? What if you just, you didn't come across something even though you could have? It's still there, right? I mean, I don't think this line here is dumb. I think that should be taken out. It's like, well, you should have been able to find it, so no, we don't care. A motion for new trial on the basis. A newly discovered evidence should be granted only where the evidence was discovered after the verdict could not have been. See, this thing here could not have been discovered earlier. Why does that matter? In the exercise of due diligence. It's material to the issue in the case and not merely, I guess you kind of have to have a cutoff at some point. Because you could just keep, well, hey, I found this. Hey, look, we found this, we found this, we found, and keep going one after the other. It's just weird. It almost seems coordinated, though. Because it doesn't make sense with the surveillance footage, Mollie Tibbetts' Fitbit. Not only does she show up a little bit on a camera, remember that one woman who actually saw her running on the road, and then just moments later her Fitbit goes like 50 miles an hour? So how does that fit with all this stuff? I mean, maybe that's when she was abducted, right? I mean, I guess if you went with this theory, you could say that's when she was really abducted. But then what? Then they killed her and then put her back where she was originally abducted. Then went over to Bahena's house, sat in his living room while he was taking a shower. Then had him get in the car. Then they drove back out to that very same intersection area and have him stop his car. Then they put her body back in the trunk, then have him drive out to a cornfield. Then they leave magically, just disappear out in the thin air. And, you know, so I think you could easily argue this stuff, right? I'm kind of surprised I remembered all that shit right there. Oh, man. In this matter, a new trial should be ordered, as this evidence was not known hold on a second. Yeah. Okay. In this matter, a new trial should be ordered, as this evidence was not known prior to the verdict and could not have been found through the exercise of due diligence. The state did provide what little information they had subsequent to the defense resting its case, and based on that representation, I think that's going to end up, if they can verify that these are really people's accounts, there's definitely going to be a new trial. I mean, because this came in after it fits everything that's in the law there. However, the information provided post-verdict was somewhat different. Yeah, that's true. See, somewhat different than what the defense understood, and certainly some of the information was not known even to the state when disclosed to the defense. This evidence would certainly have made a difference in the verdict. I think it definitely, like, let's say you put all that stuff in the trial and it wasn't completely rebutted factually by the prosecution. You could see that there'd probably be some juries. Hey, thanks, Gen H. You could probably see that there's some jury members that would have found reasonable doubt. Like, wow, you've got two independent people out there that stumbled upon, you know, one of them was in jail, the other time was actually in a car, and that guy ended up being arrested, put into jail, and then he told another inmate the same thing. But what if Bahena was in jail with that person at one point? Anyways, that would make it, that would make people a little reasonable doubt would creep in, because I guess that's where it would be. It doesn't fit the story that he came up with. They drove me out to that road, and then they got out of the car. Then he saw them put something in the trunk, and then they got back in the car and he was driving. Then they, I think they left him, what was it? He got out of the car, but they left the keys in it. But at one point he looked down and saw some earbuds in his lap, so then he realized that the jogger is dead in his trunk. Yeah, it seems like this is like almost like a coordinated effort that people put together. I just have a hard time believing that this is a real thing. I mean, what happened? So Mollie Tibbetts was alive for weeks after that. I mean, I guess technically, I mean, didn't it, at autopsy, didn't they determine that she was put there right at that time? Yeah, but there's two different ones, Christopher. Not just one. Two different people. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah. I wonder if they'll be able to argue in court before this is ruled upon. You know, after properly interviewing various people, Yeah, so down here it says the verdict in this matter is contrary to the weight of the evidence. The weight of the evidence does not support a verdict showing defendant acted with premeditation or malice of forethought. The state was unable to prove satisfaction. Remember, but you have him on surveillance driving around weirdly, as if, and then Mollie Tibbetts runs by, and then he heads off in that direction, and he doesn't come back. And then she's seen jogging, and then her Fitbit goes 50 miles an hour, and then he's the one that led them to the cornfield. But I guess where the wiggle room is there any proof that she was put, I mean, the exact date she was put in that cornfield, right? See, that's where the defense will have to build their case and really get the medical examiner and say, are you absolutely certain that her body was put there on that day, or could there have been, you know, 5, 6, 7 days after that? Or maybe even a few days. I mean, there's going to be a whole new line here of questions. I don't know, Liz. I think they mentioned that, though. I thought. I don't know. That'd be pretty good. But all of a sudden, Bahena will come up with a miraculous memory that he remembers them, that she didn't have the Fitbit on at the time. I mean, he's going to be able to build his whole case now and remember a lot more stuff that sort of makes sense, you know. It's just going to... Oh, she didn't have her Fitbit on. I think they just left it there at the end. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. Hey, tragedy turned triumph. Why don't you go somewhere else? You're always just making just the stupidest comments. They never match anything that anybody's talking about. That's just waste of my time. We're trying to talk about something seriously. But how come there's two different stories, though? I Love Labs. But what was interesting, it was only 4 hours later. Like, hey, we need to... but why are they doing this? See, here's the thing. What would be the motivation? Are they trying to get a better deal? Or the second person had nothing to do with it. She didn't have a deal. She wasn't even in prison or jail. Are they just trying to pin it on somebody else that they don't want out? And who's the 50-year-old? Oh my God, it's not Rod Bexa! Just kidding. I'm not really reading everybody's comments, so I don't know what everybody's saying. I just see a couple of them. I'm just thinking to myself. I'm not like the other channels where I just stare at the screen. No, Brian. No, man. Okay, Daisy. Good for you. Let's see. I wonder if these witnesses know Bahena. Well, that's what I said earlier, Running Fox. It kind of makes you wonder if Bahena was in the jail with one of those guys. I don't know. Maybe there was some kind of financial incentive offered to somebody, a third party. It just doesn't make sense given the forensic information that they have regarding the Fitbit and the surveillance footage. Because Bahena didn't come back on the camera, right? He... Yeah, let me go. Let me see if we can look at this. Have to pull the map up. No, he said that her earbuds were on his lap. Sing to me, soprano. Don't you remember that part? So, that's not correct. Wow, you just joined again, Cineline? Man. Oh man, these are all the different things I had for that. Wow, yikes, that's... Yeah, okay, so the hairstylist, remember? Mollie was running by and the hairstylist saw her, and right around in this area. And then in the ninja story, you know, right around in this area is where she was abducted. And then her Fitbit started going 50 miles an hour this direction. I don't think so. I don't remember all those things. He said that the earbuds were in his lap, and then he thought to look in his trunk. And so remember her at that very day, you know, he's driving around in this area. We've got it right here. This is the guy's house with the surveillance cameras, and the cameras shot out in all these different directions. And Bahena's driving right around in here, right as Mollie Tibbetts is running by. I mean, come on. And then he drives this direction. I mean, we don't know where he went after this. I guess it's possible he drove up here and around and left. But he didn't come by the camera again. And then Mollie's over here. And then... But then he comes up with this story. Here's what doesn't match up. Here's what doesn't match up. What doesn't match up is that Bahena was referring to the same moment in time that the ninjas took him to this area. So when was Mollie ever in a trap house somewhere? Okay? Where was she in a trap house where these guys had to devise a plan and then take him up here? See, that's where their problem is. It was on this same day right here. Yeah, because he's trying to explain what really happened here, but then he doesn't really explain why he's driving around over here. Did those guys, were they in the car with him at that time? He's going to have to say that now. But she's jogging here, so they couldn't have came up with this plan to paint it on somebody, because she was at a trap house for who knows how long. And the FBI was even walking around. The FBI weren't there right away like that. So the thing is his story doesn't match up, the timeline. So there's a lot of stuff that doesn't work for him in this case. Oh, thanks, Cindy Lynn. Yeah, his original story did, Sammy. But later on, he said that he was taking a shower after work. I think he even said it was just a little bit after this. Like he apparently went home, took a shower, and then when he came out of the shower, there was two guys in the living room. They didn't say anything to him. He just psychically knew that he had to get in their car with them. And then those two people drove him out here, or actually in his car, they had him drive. Remember, there was this really big guy and this little thinner guy. And the really big guy, I think, was behind him, and I don't remember exactly who was where. But there was a big guy and a thin guy, and they had him drive his own vehicle out here. So that sort of matches, pinning it on him. And then they come out here. Then they had him stop the car. Then one of them goes sort of down a hill, and they disappear. And then he saw them put something in his trunk. Then they had him drive this direction. Well, okay. That's what he's saying, but he's saying that happened on that very same day. So when was Mollie Tibbetts ever in a trap house at all where these guys had to come up with this scheming plan, and then all of a sudden, it just doesn't make any sense. You guys get it, right? Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. If you don't understand what I'm saying, let me know. Put a 1 if you do not understand that. When did he black out? What do you mean when did he black out? Oh, he was when he was arguing. See, that story didn't show up at trial. He said he blacked out when Mollie said she was gonna call the police. And then remember at trial he said that he invented all that stuff because they had threatened his family. Yeah. That's wild. I mean, especially since there's another witness, right? Yeah, remember she threatened to call the police, and then he blacks out. Next thing he knows, he's driving his car, looks down, and he sees earbuds, and he thought, oh, the jogger must be in my trunk. That was the original story. No, you don't, Mary. You do not see 3 people in the car. Sorry about that. God, that's... Oh, my God. Let me guess. You put the still frame into Photoshop and applied 16 filters to it. By analyzing the pixels, I was able to determine that there were 3 people in there. Give me a break, okay? Go sell that garbage somewhere else, Mary. Nobody here believes anything that you're typing in. Right, exactly. Un petit. We always got a clown that shows up. Every time. They always got... Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw... You know what? Listen, I saw 4 people. Name that tune and... I like it. I can name that and 5 people. Let's all one-up each other, okay? How many people did you see? I saw 78. They're all stacked in there. It was wild. Yeah. Oh, 17 filters. That's okay. Right. Oh my God. Somebody literally said that. I see 3 people. Oh my God. That's amazing. Do you see dead people too? No, it doesn't look like anything. It didn't look like anything, Mary. You couldn't see anything. Okay? When you were looking at the image, it didn't look like anything. You're just claiming that now so that you can pretend, yeah, I've always seen 3. Forget it. Nobody buys into it. Nothing. Okay? You couldn't even see one person. That car, it was just a mess. Horrible. Maybe if you had the original, you could see one person. Yeah, you like the makes me more funny with the peach shirt? Oh, yeah. I don't know, Zozo. I'm more focused in on it doesn't make sense given his timeline. There was no time that Bahena could have been in what was the name of that again? The something house? I remembered a minute ago, but now I can't remember. But anyways, there just wouldn't have been time for her to be in there where the FBI was outside the door. Yeah, the trap house. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't any time for it. When would the FBI be outside this door? And then he's saying that he did all this on the day she was jogging. Okay, so he changed that at trial. That Bahena said he left Tibbetts' phone, Fitbit, and earbuds on the side of the road. Well then, if that's true, how did they clock Mollie's Fitbit driving at 50 miles an hour down that road? Did he leave it on the road somewhere else, not near where she was abducted? Yeah, nothing makes sense. I don't know. They sure as hell didn't arrive on the first day, though, right, Sammy? They weren't there that night. That's when he said he got forced to drive the car there. It was on that very same night. He was trying to explain why his, the movements. Well, you'd think he would. Okay. Did they ever find those items? I don't remember him ever being in there, but I guess you guys, if that's what they said at the trial. We watched the entire thing. I don't remember every single detail of it. Okay, so he just claims that. Okay. I believe the original story. Okay. So he just claims that. Yeah, that's not proof of anything. The original story, he said he looked down and he saw her earbuds in his lap. That seems like more of a spontaneous comment that he made while remembering it at that moment. Later on, oh yeah, I put them somewhere. I'm sure he did something with them, but he didn't put them on the side of a road. He hid them. Eventually he had to do something with the earbuds, the cell phone, everything. Yeah, so that's just could be completely made up. I don't know. We already were wondering that. Where's the money? One of them is not even in jail. Yeah. It's almost kind of weird. What if this guy was telling this story to sound like a badass, and then somebody who knows Bahena heard of it, and then told Bahena that, and then he used that in his defense, and then these other people came forward? Oh man, I don't know. It's just... Yeah, I know. Obviously, Michaela, yeah. It seems to fit right in here. We went through the whole document. Did you guys miss that, or do we have to do it again, or... the information provided by the prosecution immediately following the defendant resting. So the defendant rested his case, right? Before the prosecution even came in with a rebuttal. And they got information, and they gave it to the defense right then. Okay. Defendant resting his case in chief was that the Division of Criminal Investigation had just received contact from an individual with the Iowa Department of Corrections. The individual with the Department of Corrections had received information from an inmate that morning. That inmate had spoken at some point in time with another individual, and so those are inmate 1, inmate and inmate 2. Inmate 2 is the one who says they were actually part of the deal. Yeah, it says in here that if you find information that couldn't have been easily discovered prior to trial, then you can use that as grounds for a retrial. And now you've got two different people here, not only this one person. The individual will be described as inmate, as described above, came forward on May 26, 2021, when the inmate had first contacted the chaplain. So this inmate got hold of the chaplain. The chaplain at this institution then contacted the associate warden of security at the institution to arrange an interview of the inmate. The associate warden and another officer interviewed the inmate at approximately 1:15 on May 26. The interview took approximately 20 minutes. The inmate told the associate warden, the inmate's the one who talked to an inmate 2, and that inmate 2 is one of the actual possible ninjas, right? He was told by another inmate information about the Mollie Tibbetts murder. This second inmate, who for this motion will not be identified personally but will be called inmate 2. It was reported that while in the county jail, inmate 2 asked inmate if he knew about the Mollie Tibbetts, and the inmate said he denied knowing about the case. Inmate 2 then went on to detail that he and another individual, whom he identifies by name, were staying in a trap house owned by a 50-year-old male involved in sex trafficking. Inmate 2 discussed this relationship with this approximately 50-year-old male and then stated that on one occasion he went to a second trap house owned by the male. Inmate 2 then advised inmate that at the second trap house he and the second individual saw Mollie Tibbetts bound and gagged. Inmate 2 then admitted to the inmate that he and the second individual carried out a plan by this 50-year-old male to kill Mollie Tibbetts. He indicated that the 50-year-old male devised a plan for them to stab Mollie Tibbetts and dump her body near a Hispanic male in order to make it appear that the Hispanic male committed the crime. Well, it's not really... How did they... I mean, they didn't... Okay. Bahena said he picked up the body. They picked up the body way up here on the road right there. So how would they have known to dump the body there? They didn't know that he was going to be driving by there. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Sorry. Inmate 2 then said they did in fact kill Mollie Tibbetts and carry out the plan in such a way that the Hispanic man would be incriminated. Inmate initially thought that inmate 2 was bluster and exaggerating. It was not until he saw the news and heard of the testimony of Cristhian Bahena. So he wasn't going to say anything, but then he heard the trial and he thought, wow, that sounded just like what the guy told me he did. Inmate was interviewed by investigators for the defense to provide more details in this statement. Inmate believed that Mollie Tibbetts was... What's weird is, remember how the defense was always going after the boyfriend? Boy, they're going to drop that one in a hot second now, aren't they? Dalton. The approximately 50-year-old male was sex trafficker. Inmate 2 said that federal authorities were next door to the trap house at one point and getting too close to them. Okay, but Bahena's story is all on the day she went missing. That inmate gave small amount of money to help inmate 2 post a bail, as inmate 2 was afraid to go back home as he was facing indictment. That doesn't make any sense right there. That inmate again thought inmate 2 was exaggerating initially until he watched the end of the trial and heard Cristhian Bahena Rivera's testimony, which closely matched inmate 2's story. Defendant repleads and restates paragraph 1. Okay, then there was another... The report provided indicates that on May 26, 2021 at approximately 3:10 p.m., an individual... So this is only... So that's 1:15, and then not even 2 hours later, another individual called the Poweshiek County Sheriff's Office to indicate that she had information on the Mollie Tibbetts case. He or she, I guess. On May 26 at approximately 5:20, the individual appeared at the Poweshiek County Sheriff's Office. So they actually came in. This interview occurred within 4 hours, but she called less than 2. The reporting party herein and inmate are unknown to each other. Okay, so this reporting party and inmate are unknown to each other. The reporting party was described by Poweshiek County deputies very emotional and that he or she was likely under the influence. Okay, so right here, the statement given by the reporting party, that's this person who called, is further corroborated by the fact that when this individual and the other went to jail, it was the same county jail where inmate had been housed and had helped inmate 2 post bond. The district court is vested with unusually broad discretion when ruling on a motion of a new trial. Yeah. So the thing is what she doesn't describe a moment up here. Where is this one? Okay, right here. During the time leading up to the arrest, one of the individuals in the automobile pulled a pistol on him or her and held it to his or her head and exclaimed, "That Mexican shouldn't be in jail for killing Mollie Tibbetts because I raped her and killed her." That's it. Doesn't that just sound like, who would say that? That's a little, it's just. The reporting party knew the individual who held the gun to his head and made this exclamation. The individual who had the gun to his or her head and made the exclamation is the same individual. So here's the thing. The person holding their gun to this individual's head and making that statement is inmate 2 that was discussed in the other incident. So you have 2 unrelated people corroborating the same thing. All right, so that's what. But here's the thing: they're going to be investigating all this stuff and have been. So I wonder what the, where we're at with this. This was on July 8th. This document, so that means they had a good month and some time to look into it. I don't buy into it. I think that I don't know why these people are coming forward. I can't really come up with a rational explanation there, but anyways, you guys, that's it. I'll be back on a little bit later, but if you guys would like to help out the channel, that'd be great. Poor Mollie and her family. I feel so bad for them. I don't know. Mollie's parents seem like they wanted to let the guy go. I'm more just about justice, right? Yeah, Mollie's dad, he was all, trying to defend. Yeah, it was really bizarre stuff. So, anyways, you guys, we will see you guys tonight, and I'm gonna go over this. Remember the caller that called in the other night, on the Delphi night, and he had another case. So I'm gonna go over it now, tonight, and that one is the Blake and China Dickus case. Thank you, Allie Cake. And that's in Indiana. Thank you, Lori Grant and Kathy Freidenmaker. Yeah, so this one's going to be pretty long. I mean, I'll show you the folder here. I think it's just going to be the whole show, really. I'm just going to go through. I know that the Murder Squad and those kind of guys covered it, but I want to see what it's all about. It's kind of interesting. Seems like it. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. We will see you guys a little later in the evening. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there. Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, flag rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Gray is gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a pup protector. Fool deflector, interceptor, and I'm meaner than a spectre with a vector on his pector. With all respect, y'all, just remember I've a temper fucking check ya. I have no agenda.
I'm no pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender.
Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody? Talk to you later.